welcome to the brand new Startup Central. I'm Nayantara Rai in New Delhi. This is the show of its only kind on Indian television, dedicated, of course, to startups, but also entrepreneurship, technology, innovation, disruption. In a nutshell, anything that has to do with the new economy. We come to you every day right here on ET Now on weekdays from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Before we go any further, stay in touch with us, folks. Our email address on top of the screens. Tell us what you want to see on the show, what you never want to see on the show. Who knows, if you make a right pitch, maybe you'll want to be a part of the show. I'm also on Twitter. You can stay in touch with me directly. My Twitter handle is @Nayantara Rai. Today, we're going to put the spotlight on a super achiever. Deep Kalra of MakeMyTrip. What a tremendous journey Deep Kalra has had at MakeMyTrip, a company he founded back in 2000. It was then that Deep Kalra realized that the opportunities were immense when it came to the internet. Incidentally, he was trying to book a car for his wife at that time. The idea behind MakeMyTrip, of course, being to make travel completely hassle-free, whether you're a business or whether you are traveling alone and just a consumer out on holiday. Ideas to remove the middleman, use technology, and what a success MakeMyTrip has been. It's also relied on inorganic growth, and today MakeMyTrip is listed at the NASDAQ. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an interview you don't want to miss. Deep Kalra, candid, uncut, and with a lot of advice for all of you budding entrepreneurs and startups. Well, coming to you from the MakeMyTrip headquarters in Gurgaon, I've got the founder, Deep Kalra, an authoritative voice when it comes to startups. You've literally shown the way with a big listing, of course, in NASDAQ, inorganic growth. Deep, yours has been a really big success story when we talk about MakeMyTrip. With all that you've achieved, I've got to ask you, going forward, what are your milestones left that you want to achieve?
Sure. Firstly, thanks so much for having me on this show. I'm really excited to be here. I think when one looks back and says that, yes, it's been 19 years, but the reality is that we are still a very young company and, dare I say, a 19-year-old startup at heart.
Okay.
We really are. And every time we meet, let's say new folks who've joined us, so every month we have a program called Immersion. And this sometimes happens to people who've been with us already for 2-3 weeks, and then I'll meet with them. And I'll say, so what's the one question I love asking them is, what's surprising about this company that you thought from the outside, and now that you're working in the company, what do you find surprising, good or bad? And one of the things I consistently hear is that we thought we were joining a large, established kind of company. Things will be a little slow, but we are amazed at the pace that we see inside. It's like any startup we've been in or what we'd heard of. And that's music to my ears. That's really exciting, because in the kind of field we're in, I think the moment we slow down, we begin to stagnate. And in our industry, you can't afford that, because you'll be toast before you know it. So I think firstly, it's really important for us, everyone in this company, to deeply believe that, listen, the best is yet to come, and we haven't really cracked everything. So the moment we say, oh, we're market leaders, we're number one, we have great brands, we've got MakeMyTrip, GoIbibo, Redbus, etc., and we start sitting back, that's the beginning of the end. And I've seen enough things happen like that. That's one of the benefits of having had a long tenure.
19-year-long experience.
Yeah, and so we've seen competition come, we've seen competition go. And I think the key thing is companies who tend to keep winning are those who fundamentally believe that there are many customers out there whose problems haven't still been solved. There are many customers out there who have new problems. And there are many new technologies out there which will enable you to solve those problems in very different ways from what you've done in the past. So it's not linear always.
No.
So it's going to be very differentiated strategies, quantum leaps, different technologies. Ready to let go, I think, is going to be very important for companies, which is, listen, if I'm married to desktop and I believe this is the only way www will work, then I miss the mobile bus. If I was married to mobile web, I probably would take a long time to accept that apps are happening and apps are going to be the future. So I think that takes a very different headset, and going forward.
So you were lucky that you didn't made your brain not be wired like that. That you were willing to accommodate new technologies.
Yeah, I think luck definitely is there, and luck typically tends to favor people who are
Because
doing
you
the right
showed
things.
foresight in being the leader
Yeah,
in that.
I think in some things we definitely used these new opportunities as places where we could completely kill it. So when the app world was happening, I think we realized that this is going to be a game changer, and we put disproportionate resources to build apps. It's not like we switched off desktop like many people did and we said no desktop offering. No, there are people out there who still prefer the desktop while at work. There are also products out there where we see higher conversion on desktop, and this is high value hotels. When people are booking holidays, they want to actually get the big screen experience. Also, very often it's not that urgent. Where it's urgent, like a simple flight ticket or a bus ticket or a rail ticket or a mid-end hotel, mobile apps have stolen the way. So I think we were very focused, and we were kind of clear that this is the next big game changer, and we can start from scratch. So in some places, maybe we weren't as good as the competition, and we said now we can be the best because we're just going to.
Your competition has announced a big acquisition, Yatra and Ebix. Now they're saying they're the largest in the country. Is that true?
Which one's the competition? So, no, jokes apart. So Yatra's been.
That gives a good insight.
Yeah. So Yatra's been competing with us since 2005. So I think we've known them quite well. They're a B2C player. Then they got into the corporate business. Then they went more corporate. So I think the fact that they allowed themselves to be acquired or bought by Ebix obviously means that they weren't probably keen to go it alone further for whatever reasons, and they had listed the stock was they probably decided this is the right thing to do. Ebix, on the other hand, is a new company. I actually don't know them that well. I know that they've got many B2B verticals, and I just don't know enough about them because they're in foreign exchange. They're also doing through agents. So they bought Via.com, they bought Mercury Travels. So they're doing many things.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. We're watching. It'll be interesting to see how, of course, we watch everything.
But you're still the biggest.
I would imagine. I mean, I think as a pure play travel player, we're $6 billion in terms of gross billing. I would imagine. But, I also do think big is a vanity metric. Honestly, I do tell people internally all the time, don't focus on being the largest, focus on being the best.
Okay.
The largeness will be a byproduct. So if you focus on being the best, and that's what we've always done. There was a time we weren't the largest. I remember there was a time Yatra was larger than us for a year or two. And I think we just focused on what are the customer problems, how do we keep solving them smartly, and the rest fell into place. To become large doing B2B business is very easy, because B2B business means you're selling to agents. And if you're selling to agents, you can do that business at 1% margin or 0% margin. So you can grow. I think it can end up being a vanity metric. Plus, you can have huge issues with receivables because it's very hard to get that money back. So we love B2C. We love corporate, which is a very different kind of B2B. We don't typically work with agents. We think the internet is all about disintermediation. And with
getting rid of the middle person.
Exactly. So there's barely enough room for one intermediary, and we want that to be us. We don't think there's room for many, but we think the corporate segment is very exciting. And we had a acquisition recently that we reported. We bought a company called Quest to Travel, which has built a very evolved piece of software for large companies. So we've taken majority stake. We've taken 51% in this company, and they've built something for the largest of companies, and they're working with very big banks already. We think we can leverage that in a very smart way.
So is that going to be the way forward as well? You've done that in the past, inorganic growth.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of the strategies. The core is still going to be the brands and what the brands are delivering to customers. So 2.5 years ago, we had this big M&A with Naspers, where we had GoIbibo become part of the stable. We had Redbus become part of the brand stable. So between GoIbibo and MakeMyTrip, they're very similar brands. They're both OTAs. So when we had made this M&A, we had actually seen the overlap of customer base was about 25%.
Okay.
However, if you look at that today, and very consciously done, it's down to the low teens, even low double digits. So clearly we have positioned MakeMyTrip as more premium and GoIbibo as more budget. And in fact, we've just done a big launch for the new GoIbibo kind of brand positioning, where it's all about stretching and being able to make aspirations of customers come true. Because there are people out there who have a budget but would love to, let's say, stay in a better room. Almost everyone. So I fundamentally believe everyone's an aspirer. You get used to this, you can afford this, but then you want the next level.
Yeah.
So there are people who will have a budget of 2,000 rupees a night, but they would love to stay in a place which is 4,000. Now, today it could be possible because we are now working with hotels and offering part day bookings. We call them slot bookings. Because very often if you're on business, you show up early morning into a hotel, into a city.
Yeah.
Exactly. But you actually need the room just for an hour or two.
Yeah.
And so that need, or if you're off for a pilgrimage, etc., you need the hotel for probably 2 or 3 hours just to refresh, get done and move on. And hotels themselves are understanding that this could be valuable to them.
Yeah, the 3 p.m. check-in is not working.
Yeah, daycations and staycations have become very popular. And these are new terms, but it's true that people are today saying, listen, we don't have time to get out of town. But we live in a small place. Yeah, we need a break. So they'll go and check into a 5-star hotel. They'll spend the day out there. They'll dine there, they'll use the pool, they'll use the spa with kids, etc., and have a really good time, but no need to spend the night. And so we've requested hotels to create packages. In some cases, the hotels were already doing this, and we are the ones putting it together where we are offering this to customers.
What kind of hotels? Would these be boutique hotels? Are these chains?
Actually, we've got literally the whole range. So some of the top hotel names in the country have offered this and are still offering it through summer. So the 5 stars in every city are doing it, and then 4 stars. This we think is an aspirational product. So this we'll only do with 4 and 5 stars.
Yeah.
Because that's where you really want to be. And it's very often centered around the pool, so fun for the kids. It's very often centered around a really nice restaurant. So it could be a specialty restaurant or a coffee shop and a spa. So
day out,
willy-nilly, you've got like a 4 or a 5 star.
So, you've actually preempted my question, which is I was going to ask you that we're talking right out of the peak season. Schools have reopened, colleges have reopened, all of that. Did you notice any interesting trends this holiday season?
Yeah, a couple of them I think very encouraging, and a couple of them, dare I say, a little worrying. So I'd be happy to talk about both.
Yeah.
The very encouraging trend is clearly that Indians are traveling like never before.
Okay.
You can go to any airport in the world. Not only in India, you'll see Indians. In Indian airports, the queues on immigration itself tell you how people are traveling. In domestic airports, thanks to Udan and the new sectors and the new airports, we now have 100 airports that are operational for commercial flights. People are going out to smaller places which were hitherto very difficult to get to. Long drives, difficult now traffic jams, etc. So people are now taking a quick flight.
Yeah.
You can be from, let's say, New Delhi as a hub into Northeast in a couple of hours and then drive an hour or two and get into a really interesting place. You can do the same by going to some places in the north, places in the south. So the country's really got connected and people are traveling. So the growth trends, despite the blip in air because of Jet Airways, there's been a blip, but that capacity has now come back. But Indians are traveling like never before. And don't forget, we see this at all ends of the spectrum. So we actually see it with rail tickets.
Okay.
Which is always full, as we know, in season. We see it with bus tickets.
Yeah.
So we sell over 200,000 bus tickets a day through Redbus and the other 2 brands. And we see the way people are traveling. Buses become very popular and very democratic, actually, when you look at South and West India. Well-heeled people do not hesitate before boarding an overnight bus to go between Bangalore and Hyderabad or to go between Chennai and another place. Whether you're going home or for a holiday, it's the buses are great. The roads are very good, and we've tried to make it very efficient where we actually tell you, we wake you up if you want an alarm 10 minutes before your stop. We tell you which stops, where can you get out and eat, where can you get out and use the washroom, etc. So it's become a very organized kind of journey, and a lot of people at that end are doing. And then the Udan sectors, which are the small sectors, and then domestic long-haul travel, 2.5 hours very often. Look at the flights between Delhi and Goa today and what they used to be. Look at the flights between Delhi and Dehradun. There used to be 1 or 2 flights a day. And prices have also come down because of competition. So great news is Indians traveling like never before for leisure.
So what's worrying?
All over the world. What is worrying is that I think we are actually creaking when it comes to infrastructure to take in more and more Indians. So if you go to any of our typical holiday places, whether hill stations, so in summer, you go to a hill station, or you go to Goa in peak season, or you go to any place, it's actually really, really now congested. And that's causing all kinds of problems because these places were not made for so many people.
No, they weren't.
We've seen water crisis in Shimla. We've seen 16-hour traffic jam between Delhi to Nainital. Took people 16 hours. It made it to the front pages, but it's not a one-off. I was I guess, lucky enough to go to Manali some time back, and I was very excited to go back to one of my favorite hill stations in India. And it took us, we flew into Bhuntar, which is Kulu Airport, and it's 55 kilometers from Bhuntar to Manali, which normally takes an hour, hour and a half, maybe. It took us 3.5 hours, and other friends, it took them 5.5 hours. There were other friends who traveled for this trip, it took them 17 hours from Delhi to Manali. That's one thing. Secondly, when you get there, there's still traffic because, again, too many people, and there's pollution. So the very reason of why you're in Manali is to escape.
It's gone, yeah. And
So
you got construction on top of all of
exactly,
that.
and it's unhindered construction going on. So every second home is turning into a guest house because there's need, there's demand. So I think we have to really approach this at a very local level, as well as at the same time we've got the center to work closely and say, listen, tourism is critical, but we cannot load a place. So basically there's a concept called carrying capacity, and there's a carrying capacity of every city, and we've got to be very conscious of it and say no more. And there are enough examples around the world where people have said we can't take more. Beaches have shut down for a year in Philippines and Thailand and said we can't take more, we're ruining the ecology, etc. You know, we have to fix this and we'll come back.
We need to do that for the Himalayas. And
I think we really need to do that. It's fragile, and I think if we were to go there and see the pollution, we go there and see the way people litter places, and just actually it's scary how people have overbuilt houses.
And that's an honest admission coming from a businessman whose job is to actually, who's in the business of sending people to these destinations.
No, I'm worried. So I'm coming to the conclusion, which is a little sad, is that people who can afford to go overseas will actually go overseas. And only people who can't afford to go overseas will be in India, which is very sad because we have the most beautiful places in India, and many of us know that. We want to take our kids there. We want to go back there. And it's sadly becoming quite tough. And this is not 3 or 4 places. You literally pick a place which is a popular place, and we end up over inundating that. So I think at some level we feel, we also need to do something, because while we may not be responsible that people are traveling more, but we're helping them and we're matching up places to stay. But we're doing actually a fair deal of work now on the ground in Ladakh and in Andamans, with local places to make sure that we can at least make some of these places more sustainable.
Okay.
So in the Andamans,
you mean MakeMyTrip is doing this?
Yeah, MakeMyTrip through our foundation. We're working with the Andamans authorities now, making sure that one island can be single-use plastic free. We're doing a lot of reforestation work in Ladakh now with a very good foundation on the ground. We've done a ton of planting work in near Udaipur. So we're doing a whole bunch of things.
Are you already seeing this trend that more Indians are traveling overseas that can afford it simply because of the problems that you just highlighted?
Yeah, that's one reason. The second reason is the supply. It's become so much easier to get there. So with direct flights now connecting India to so many places. So
and this year wasn't an aberration, let's say, because of the World Cup in England, and Indians do love Oxford Street.
A lot of Indians travel to England. Anyway, they go in summer and then the World Cup. But I'm talking about the new flights to places which weren't connected. So now we have 2 direct flights from Delhi and a couple from the other parts of the country into Phuket. People would go via Bangkok, it would be a longer journey. In 4 hours, you're there. Literally in 4 hours, and it takes 3 hours to go from north to south in the country. In Maldives, was never connected directly, now it is. And it's connected by low-cost carriers. So the low-cost carriers are, by definition, fairly cheap. So people are saying, hey, this is phenomenal. I can get there and I can get more bang for the buck. We have direct flights to Kiev, which is amazing. It was never there. It's a fantastic place to go to. We had a direct flight to Almaty. Now with the airspace problem solved, it'll be back again. So we are connecting out so many flights to Istanbul and so many flights to different part of Europe.
Jordan has come up as well,
exactly.
for example. Israel.
Poland, you can get directly into Warsaw now on Lot Polish, which wasn't there at a very attractive price.
Australia, you got more flights.
So you can literally, so people are now saying,
the world is your oyster.
The world's your oyster. You're absolutely right.
Deep, Kalra, I also got to ask you this, because you've shown a lot of foresight when it comes to technology and travel. What's the future of travel?
I think the future of travel for Indians is very robust and very bright in terms of just people traveling much more. And it's actually due to 2 different reasons. One is sheer demographics. So younger people, and when I say millennials, very young, but even a little older than that, anyone today, I think under the age of 40, 45, is really not thinking about saving. They are saying this is the renting economy, millennials more so. So they're fundamentally saying, I don't need to save up to buy a house. I don't need to save up even to buy a car because there's, we have now cab hailing between Ola and Uber. We don't need to save. So people are now fundamentally saying, we're going to spend more money on ourselves.
Experiences.
Totally. So on eating out and then on traveling and seeing the world. Also, traveling, and it sounds flippant, but it's really a big deal. Traveling has become I think, the accepted form of showing off.
Okay.
So people will travel and they will post pictures. They'll post pictures on social media. And that's become the single biggest reason for more people to travel. Because they're now going to see these pictures and say,
Really?
oh, wow,
I want to see that.
where did you jump off a bridge? Hey, can I go and do that? Oh, did you skydive? Oh my God. Oh, that looks so stunning. Where are you? And I'd love to do that. So I think that's happening in a big way with younger folks. And it's going to continue. The other very interesting trend is now older folks whose kids have now grown up, settled, are doing their own thing, are saying that, listen, now we don't need to save anymore, the rainy day is done kind of thing.
Yeah.
And their children are encouraging them, why don't you travel?
Yeah.
So we're seeing older people now traveling, either sponsored
and being
by...
more adventurous perhaps than they were in their 30s.
Absolutely, either sponsored by their kids, or kids are taking them along. We see a lot of family travel, extended family travel, or just spending those savings that they're doing. So I think we're seeing more travel come from all segments. Then there are very interesting new forms which India had never seen before in a big way. There were always niches, which is like-minded people traveling. So we find a lot of single lady travelers get together and travel, and they're saying this is a big deal. Of course, pre-marriage and post-marriage and bachelor trips and all are also become a big deal. Celebration holidays have become huge. Now, every time there's a milestone birthday or a milestone anniversary, people are saying, let's not just do a party in town, let's go out of town. It's become a big deal. Yeah. And then, so people are really, really traveling much more at a fundamental level. And we've quantified this. So, when I was growing up and I had my first job, which was now many moons ago, but 27 years ago, if you took 2 holidays a year, it was a big deal. It was a good thing. In summer, you took a longish holiday. In winter, you took a shorter one. Maybe if you had enough money, you took a tiny weekend break. Now, the average for someone joining our company, and I love asking this question, is between 6 and 7. 6 and 7 breaks a year. Short, long, also one long one. And there are people who have gone up to 20. I kid you not, I've heard 20 breaks last year.
Wow.
And they said, literally, have weekend, we'll travel.
I wish my boss gave me this much leave. He must be a cool boss.
So we like the fact that Indians are traveling a lot.
Yeah. And marrying technology with this, like for example, if I were to ask you, just, we keep hearing about how there's going to be an Uber for chartered flights, for example. Yeah. Do you see any of that stuff taking off in India soon? Like, what are the new trends in that perspective?
Yeah, I think tech is definitely impacted today in terms of distribution. So I think that's been the biggest impact, which is just getting suppliers. And when we say suppliers, we mean airlines of all sizes, small, large, low cost, full service, etc. Hotels, guest houses, alternate accommodations, buses. Just very easy to book. So firstly, that big one has happened. Yeah. It's become super easy to book.
Correct, yeah.
But guess what?
And now you want deals, you want points.
Yeah, but guess what? It's going to become easier.
Okay.
It's going to actually become easier because with technology and with artificial intelligence, we can actually personalize a lot more.
Okay.
So if you've booked with us 2 or 3 times and you tend to favor a certain way to travel, certain places to stay, a certain class of hotel, then next time around we can suggest places which are relevant to you. There's little point in suggesting something which doesn't make any sense. And we can do that at scale with many, many people. And I think that's going to be a turning point, the way people see, hey, this is so easy, because a lot of people, even today, despite all the education, despite all the exposure to the internet, don't know where to go.
Yeah.
So the single biggest question I get asked by my friends all the time and family is, long place, can you suggest where to go? And I say, seriously, like you have no clue? And no, we've done that. And then you'll tell them something as, I think fairly simple and basic as Ladakh. And they'll say, really, is it easy? Is it safe? So it's super safe. It's super incredible. It's the most amazing place probably in India.
Yeah, it is the most beautiful place,
You tell them Bhutan and people don't know there's a direct flight and you can go to Bhutan, which is just a paradise.
Yeah.
In India, you tell them places and people are still not aware. Like Andamans again, there's a beach on Havelock Island, which is probably one of the best beaches I've seen in the world. And it's gorgeous and it's stunning and people don't go there enough. And we are making connectivity. So I think firstly, it's just the exposure and connecting people and telling them where to go. So that's going to become a big, big trend.
Okay.
Secondly, I think getting to places become easier, more with, I would say, aviation tech than anything else. Also business, also enough people to travel. 200 million Chinese will travel out by 2020. But here's the interesting fact, 45 million Indians will travel out also. So that's one of the places where we are not like 1:10. We're about 1:5 and Indians are traveling out. So Therefore, a lot of foreign airlines are coming here and saying, how can we connect you to different parts? Therefore, our own Indian carriers who are well capitalized are now saying, how can we take you somewhere else? Because we know the customer. So I think we're going to see this a lot more. A lot of this is going to happen on your mobile screen seamlessly. You'll think it's very convenient. A lot of work will happen at the back end to throw up options which are super relevant to you. And then, like I said, value added stuff can happen. While you're there, would you like to see this amazing show? Oh, by the way, there's a concert going on, or there's a big football game.
Yeah, I got it.
Or, sports packages. So I think this is going to become very, very big going forward.
Kalra, can you now share with us how you started out and how difficult was it?
I think in hindsight, it was a fairly crazy thing to do at that point in time. So, but I think that's the advantage of youth. So I started out in 2000. I was just about 30. Actually, I was just about 30 years old. I think what you can do at 30 is infinitely different to what you can do at 40 and 50.
Okay.
Just from the sheer, I think, ability to take risks and energy. So I thought that, I can build a site, and they were called portals then. I can build a portal where, we'd have all the options, and it would be like, I guess, Expedia and Travelocity and in the US, and very easy to click onto and get the best deals, etc., etc. And this would be wonderful, and a lot of people would take to the internet so easily. I don't think I could be more wrong when it came to India for the first 5 years. First 5 years, no one bought anything online in India. 2000, 2005, people were just too scared to give their credit card online. We almost stayed bust for 2 years. We'd never had more money than 2 months of spend. Never. Okay. And it was really stressful between 2001 and 2003 because we had hunkered down, we had shrunk to this tiny office, tiny people in a mezzanine. We had like really dark days. Look back and you can laugh about them, but that really tested your own belief in what you're trying to do. So I think that was, in a way, a good thing. But things started to change in India, 2004, 2005. So that period, we stayed alive by focusing entirely on non-resident Indians in the US.
Okay.
They kept coming because they were used to buying online. They weren't scared. They could give their credit card. If something didn't happen, they'd get a charge back. Then in India, I think 2004, 2005, Indians got more comfortable with the internet. I have to thank IRCTC for getting people more comfortable. Low-cost carriers came, Air Deccan and the others followed. And they just got people excited.
They've all sunk, but you're still around.
Well, some of them are doing really well too. I think Indigo is doing great. SpiceJet keeps getting stronger. So I think we have some survivors. And I can tell you, any company, online, offline, travel, non-travel that survives is basically a company who stays very, very focused on what are you doing? And can you solve that problem better than anyone else and then do it at scale? Any company.
But did you take a loan? How did it happen?
So initially I put up whatever capital I had, which wasn't a lot, but I did get early stage funding. So I got $2 million from eVentures.
Okay.
But that's not where the story ends. So I got $2 million from eVentures, which was half Murdoch and half SoftBank.
Okay.
But within a year, they wanted to pull out of all internet investments because of the dot-com bust, and including ours. So they wanted their money back. And we obviously had spent most of it. And so one bought back the company from them with, again, friends, family, and whatever one could kind of scrounge on. Obviously, it was a distressed sale. So 2001 to 2005, we were on our own entirely. Bought back a few angels to help us. And really it was...
Which is not a very well-known concept in India anyway.
Yeah, I guess so. And at that point of time, I guess funding itself was very tough. Post-dot-com bust totally dried up. There was no one willing to fund anything on it. So banks still don't lend to our sector. But 2005 onwards, so I think after 4 tough years, managed to get funding from Safe Partners when we launched in India. And then I think it was really frenetic growth. From 2005 to 2010, we grew at a frenetic rate. We grew 25x in these 5 years. We IPO'd in 2010, like you said, on NASDAQ, which has been great for us.
Why NASDAQ? Why did you choose NASDAQ?
So Nayantara, at that point of time, the Indian markets, I don't think were ready to understand or appreciate the internet model. Even now, they're just getting there, and you know the sector really well, you cover it really well. I think there are very few internet companies out there that are listed here.
You're probably the only one who has still shown the way with an IPO.
Yeah, well, in India, we've had InfoEdge, which is Naukri, and now recently we've had IndiaMart, which is listed, and then in the middle we had Just Dial. So we've had some companies.
But that's nothing, like look at the...
Exactly, so if you look at internet companies listed in the US, and that's precisely the point, and now in Hong Kong, they'll be in several hundreds, maybe even 1,000. So the point is there's a big investor base that understands this model and is willing to actually buy into this model and then give them the rope and appreciate it. So that was our big reason. And I think that kind of got validated, that worked out very well. And then post 2010, we've continued to grow organically, but we've also made investments, some acquisitions, etc. And I think it's been a great journey. But like I said in the beginning, the best is truly yet.
Is it because you had to go through this very dark phase as well, where you literally had to have everything together? You like to mentor young entrepreneurs and startups because you know what it's like?
Probably. I never thought of it that way, but it's a great point. Probably. I think at that point of time, I do realize the most useful thing you could get. The second most useful thing. The most useful thing was cash,
Money.
and you couldn't get any. But the second most useful thing you could get, actually, which I think is actually now the most useful thing, is the right advice.
Okay.
So I turned to a lot of people shamelessly, and I was, I think, lucky to have a good network, which came either out of your school, your alumni, etc., etc. But there were people who gave invaluable advice right through, and encouragement actually in that advice. So whether it was Sanjeev Bikhchandani from InfoEdge, who's continued to be, a friend.
There's a Midas touch.
Yeah, he's been a friend, philosopher, guide, but he's just fantastic, irrespective of how well he's done with his own company. He's great at giving the right advice and cutting through the chase. So he was on our board for many years. He's still on the advisory board. Even after that, I've seeked out people who've, I think, given the right advice
Like
for
who?
a particular
Can you
thing.
share?
So I work quite closely with Irina Vittal. She's also now an advisor to the company, and we find her just phenomenal. Again, the ability to just cut through all of that and tell you, listen, where you're going, what you're trying to do, and look at the macro trends. And she'll come and spend sometimes a full day with us, beating us up but giving us great advice. She's fantastic. Sanjeev we still turn to a lot. And then for different things, different people. I think we've been also lucky by having some investors who turned out to be great advisors. So Ravi Adusamali at SAFE turned out to be a fantastic advisor. Lee Fixel at Tiger, they all became good friends over time. Tim Guleri at Sierra Ventures was our investor in 2006, sold out post-IPO entirely, and we requested him to continue on the board, and he's still on the board as an independent, as is Vivek Gaur, who used to be the CFO of Genpact. So I think, I
well-diversified portfolio
yeah, and
advisors.
I tell young entrepreneurs, go to the right person for the right problem. That's your job. No one has tons of time, so you can't go to them with all your problems.
No.
Just find the right person for the right thing.
That problem.
That matchmaking is your job to do. And if you
That's
do
great
that,
advice for everyone
and you
watching.
can tell people that, hey, listen, I need 20 to 30 minutes. I think 20 is a nice number to sell and then eventually take 40, which is fine.
That's what we journalists do.
Yes, I know. But you should go with a very precise problem. That listen, this is the situation, this is this.
Get to the root of the problem.
And which one are you taking to that person rather than everything. Okay. And I think that really helps. People are, by and large, quite willing to give advice.
So you said the best thing anybody could have done was give you money. So Deep Kalra, now that you've got this fantastic company, you're looked up to $4 billion in revenue, $6 billion in revenues, and all of that. Do you like to play the role of an angel investor ever? Do you invest in startups, entrepreneurs? Yeah,
there's been a learning there. I've actually done quite a few, and I think too many. I made a lot of investments early on. One would like to, that's also the way of kind of showing your faith in the ecosystem, right?
And also making money.
Yeah, well, you're not quite sure that works out always, but anyway. So I did a whole bunch of investments in some very interesting companies, but I did realize after some time that it's the moment you make an investment, you also make an unspoken commitment to give time. And if you're running your own company, that's very hard to do. So then over the years, I've kind of not come back, not curtailed, but I've gone through funds. So now I'm going through a bunch of different funds where the experts are making the calls. They do this day in, day out. They're going to do a better job. They can make their whatever, whether it's their carry or their cut, that's fine. That's their job. And then they can ask me where I can kind of add value.
Yeah.
And I do try to carve out 1, even 2 slots a week to talk to young entrepreneurs, either during the week or on weekends. And then it'll be the places where one can really add value.
Yeah.
Rather than, so now the direct portfolio is probably shrunk. It's probably only about maybe 30, 40 deals or something.
Do you have a favorite?
Oh yeah, some of them have obviously, I think, worked out quite well. There's some recent ones which I'm very excited about. So I'm very excited about Dunzo and about Milk Basket, very recent, and that's exciting to see how well they're growing. So hopefully they'll continue to do well. I never do anything travel because then there'll be a conflict obviously. So we stay away from travel. Also going through a fund helps me with that because then the decision to go ahead and invest is
So you're like an LPGP to these funds?
In a small way.
And the angel network?
I did a whole bunch of them through Indian Angel Network. Now I don't participate individually, but I go through their fund. So I'm also part of the IAN fund. So
any advice that you have to those that like to invest in startups? I think everybody's thinking that if I put in a little bit of money, the returns can be exponential, right? Can you imagine if you catch a unicorn early?
Yeah, they can. And that's the lure, but I don't think people should get in for that because the reality is for all the unicorns, to use that much touted word now that we hear and see of, I think it's 99 to 1 where we don't. So it's really the tip of the iceberg that we see and we say, oh wow, look at that company, multi-billion-dollar, array, I got in early and now. But you don't see hundreds of other companies which struggled and fell apart. And I've seen many like that too. So I think one has to be very clear that you get in to back fundamentally, I think, a really good.
Don't look at it as an asset class. Look at it
not
as
at all. This is play money. This is money where if all of it goes down, it will not impact the way you live. Clearly, you should look at it as asset class, but it's a high risk venture class. That's what venture is. So if you talk to a venture fund in a portfolio of 10, they hope to have one big outlier, a couple of good successes, and then they know 5 or 6 will fail. That's the reality. So I think people should know the statistic. So back really good entrepreneurial teams, either single or a small team, because they will then figure out how to do it. They'll even pivot, they'll even change their model, but they'll figure out how to do it. I think that's really important. Where people, I don't think they necessarily, they get more enamored by the space and the company, what it's trying, rather than who's behind it. Because some of the best companies have pivoted and pivoted so well. Because someone there realized, hey, what we're trying to do is probably not solving either a big enough problem or there's something better, there's a better way to do it. And then they'll do the pivot. So I think it's really important you get in there and be very clear that your chances of success are less than 10%. So I think go in, it's literally like the casino with some intelligence.
Well, there you go, Deep Kalra, candid, uncut, not just on the various trends this travel season, but also a masterclass for all of you budding entrepreneurs and startups. But we're going to have a second edition with Deep Kalra. This masterclass is going to be continued tomorrow. So make sure you tune in for that. In fact, Deep Kalra is going to be answering questions that we've got from various entrepreneurs, thanks to Thai Delhi, as well as a few entrepreneurs at an incubator in Bengaluru. That conversation and masterclass coming up for you tomorrow, same time. For now, we're going to take a short commercial break. But stay tuned. A lot lined up on the other side as well. Welcome back. You're watching the brand new Startup Central with me, Nayanthara Rai, the only show of its kind on Indian television dedicated, of course, to startups, but also technology, innovation, disruption, entrepreneurship, anything that has to do with the new economy. Our email address on top of the screen, suc@etnow.tv. Tell us what you want to see on the show, what you never want to see on the show. Pitch to us. Who knows? Maybe one day you'll be a part of the show. I'm also on Twitter. Time now for our series, First Gen. Today for that, we're heading to Goa, where this brother-sister duo have a company called Vayanar, which is in the business of real estate. We don't need to sell Goa to you. You all know how lovely Goa can be. Now imagine owning a second home in Goa, which is completely hassle-free. You don't have to worry about laundry. You don't have to worry about housekeeping or any of that janjat. A home away from home, and these are all sustainable homes as well. Here's what Vayanar is up to in Goa. I'm now with the founders of Vayanar. Hi guys, Nana Nagpal, Varun Nagpal. Welcome to ET Now Startup Central. Varun, I'll begin with you. Amritsar to Delhi to Goa. What happened? How did that happen?
I visited Goa 10 years back, and I thought this is going to be the next big opportunity. And we started one small project of 12 apartments. And it's been 12 years, 30 projects.
30 projects?
Yeah.
How many homes have you sold?
We've sold more than 500 homes in Goa. And we finished about more than 150 homes. And
So you built a name for yourself?
yeah, I think when we went to Goa, there were very few people in the market. And I think we have the advantage of having the history. And now, today, we tend to sell most of our homes within first 4 months of launch.
And that's at a time when the market is quite distressed.
Yeah, that's true, because I think we've lived up to our promise and we've delivered homes on time, and whatever quality we promised, we delivered that. So that's been a real advantage for us.
And Anna, you are the architect, so you're responsible of making the homes look beautiful so that he can go sell them, right? I'm guessing that's the partnership. So what do you think when you design, because you're not from Goa, and you're not trying to imitate, let's say, Portuguese architecture or whatever?
The thing is that when we are designing homes, it's actually for the comfort and well-being of the homeowner. That's the most important thing for us. So it's about what do people want when they come. They want a place they can relax. They want a place where they can reconnect with nature. They want a place, which de-stresses them with today's life. This constant being on the phone, on emails. It's a place where you can just unwind. And at that point, being surrounded...
You have no mobile network in your homes?
We do actually, unfortunately.
Goa has no mobile network, that's good.
That's the sad part. 10 years ago, Goa did not have mobile network, and I used to be so happy because I would disappear from office. And now I come back and I'm like, damn, the email is coming to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, that has changed a lot. But also the fact that people just want to be there and be with themselves, their families, spend time with their loved ones, create memories.
So is that what you do when you're designing? Like you make little nooks or little corners in the
Yeah.
house for each person or whatever?
That's correct. So there's a place where someone can go read a book. There's a place where there are open kitchen plans where families can come together and cook together if they so wish to. We have curated experiences where people can go on a boat ride to watch the sunset together. Besides designing the home, it's a microcosm of community which exists to make the experience really nice. And design is an addition to that. It doesn't become separate. Design is something which actually is surrounding human experience.
Yeah.
That is good design.
But Varun, like I was saying, the market is distressed. People are not buying their first home.
Yeah.
You are selling a second home. You're
Yeah.
selling a dream, a aspirational lifestyle. Isn't that more difficult?
Not really, because if you look at the cities, the people are stuck in various places. And there's no room for investment left in the city, right? So I think now people are realizing that maybe it's a good time to own, instead of buying a second apartment in Gurgaon or in Bombay, it's better to have a second home in Goa, which they can use few weeks in a year. They can rent it out while they're not there. So it's actually...
Well, like on Airbnb or something? Or
So,
Oreo, what?
So we have a rental desk in our company which helps the homeowners rent out their homes while they're not there. We have all services, like we have housekeeping services, we'll have an estate manager. So the whole system is designed in a way where it's very conducive to rent on short-term basis.
Okay.
So yeah, so you buy a home in Goa, you rent it on short-term, you make some money out of it, you get to use it, so it makes sense.
So it's hassle-free as well. You don't have to
Yeah.
worry about, is my laundry done? Is my housekeeping going to be
Yeah.
done? Am I going to come to a clean apartment?
So yeah, everything is taken care of, from your laundry to making your beds to everything. There's an estate manager which is more like a manager who takes care of everything. You want a taxi to pick you up from the airport, or your guests are coming in, or you want to rent a car locally. So they take care of everything. You don't have to worry about anything.
And where do you go? 30 projects. So each project is different in style. Like how does it come across, and how do you innovate for the new ones?
It comes from how the space actually dictates the layout. You look at a piece of land, you see what is required out there, from where can you see the maximum view, where are the best trees located. You cannot transplant a 100-year-old tree, right? But you can have a window there where you can just sit there and have that tree there, which is the view where the birds are going to come, where you open your windows and you can just hear the sound of birds, just have natural light come in, have the wind come in.
So you talk a lot of natural light, you're talking of wind, the tree that you can't transplant and stuff.
Yeah.
As the architect, how conscious are you that your home should be green or, environmental friendly?
We make a lot of effort to make sure our homes are environment friendly. We do composting. We have aerators in our water, in our taps, so that the water consumption is less. We do rainwater.
So you're not one of those builders who are destroying Goa. That's the point I was trying to get at.
So I think people go to Goa because they want to break away from the hectic city life, right? So it's very important for us to have open spaces, lots of greenery, make our homes sustainable so that, it's an environment that they enter and they feel like, it's a great break. So in cities, it's difficult. You don't have, space. Real estate is so expensive. It's very difficult to, avoid cutting trees, for example, because there is such little space. In Goa, because there's a lot of space, you can afford to plan in a way where, you conserve as much as you can. So
you talked about the rental desk and how everything is taken care of, is janjat free, if I could call it that, hassle free. So how does it work? Like, they have to call somebody, or do you have an app? Like, how does it work?
So we do have an app in our company, so which from when you can check in from there, you can order groceries from there, you can get your laundry done from there.
So you live in a bubble.
Yeah, you can rent a
Bubble
boat.
surrounded by a lot of nature.
You can rent a boat from the app, if you want to.
Okay.
So yeah, it's totally the idea is to, and we want to limit the human interaction as much as you can, and that's why we have the app where people can just punch in whatever they need and things will get done. So you don't have to speak to anybody; things just happen.
Since you're talking about the human interface, Naina, I'll ask you this question. You do see a lot of angst among the Goans when it comes to employment or what's happening on their land. So in your 30 projects, and when you do all of this, are you conscious of working with Goans?
For sure, we have all our, subsidiary help which comes and looks after our properties is from the neighboring villages. So we have a lot of women actually who come in and work during the day. They come in the morning and they will work at our properties and then go back after that. So they actually have a source of income coming in, a secondary source of income coming in their families by coming to the properties and looking after the houses when people are away.
I think it's also the whole ecosystem which is created when you build a community. You get staff which is from around the area. You'll hire taxis from the local area. You'll buy your groceries from the local area. So you're creating a whole ecosystem which is promoting the livelihoods of the locals. So I think it's great for locals that people are coming and spending the money in Goa.
How's the market these days?
Really good.
Yeah. A big smile.
We're selling. It's great. Because we have history. We've been
10 years is history.
I think yes, because we've delivered most of our projects, all our projects on time.
You are one of those guys who deliver projects
No,
on time.
whatever we promise, we deliver. That's. I would just stick to that, and I think people like that, and there's a trust factor. People, when we launch new projects, we get sold out in 3 to 4 months. So for us, it's not the problem is not selling; it's supplying. Coming up with new projects. That's the problem.
Yeah, is that what the problem is? Not enough land.
Yeah, finding good land is the problem. Selling Goa is a place which has interest from all over the country. There's one place in India which
And
I
overseas, I would imagine.
And overseas, but you have less buyers from overseas.
You don't target NRIs?
We do, but I would say 20% of our audience, or like 15 to 20% would be NRIs, but the 80% comes from within India, from everywhere. It could be as diverse as Chandigarh to Chennai to Bangalore to Pune. So it's from all over the country, and that's, I think, one place which is unique. You don't have any other place like that in India where you have.
But it is also an overcrowded place.
Not really.
No, it's not. It's
I
not
don't think so.
No, what I meant was overcrowded with people buying second homes, or
Yeah.
people trying to build over there, sellouts. So do you ever, Naina, have to figure out how to be unique?
I don't think so. I think Goa's landscape in itself is unique. We are always trying out new designs. We are trying very hard to innovate. We are constantly innovating. We have a team of very talented people on board working with us. It's not just a sole person doing it. We have a team of talented designers. We have a team of talented project managers. It all comes together. We're constantly innovating for new designs, new materials, and then the landscape of Goa overtakes. One monsoon and you're in.
I think
greenery.
also, since it's a holiday home, we experiment a lot,
Yeah.
and we can afford to do that because it's a second home. So
As a luxury home.
yeah, it's a luxury home, but you can also experiment. You can do different things, and people like it because.
But because it's also a luxury home, do you have to also sometimes customize things, and is that difficult?
Yes, we do. For example, all our projects have terrazzo flooring, which is all handmade. And we let people choose their patterns if they want to. So yes, of course, we do let people choose stuff if they want to.
Who's the boss?
He is.
she's the boss.
On that note, you guys figure out who the boss is. That's why it's being here on Startup Central.
Thank you.